Okay, looks like we're getting ready to start. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes for more people that were invited and haven't shown up yet. But for everybody that's here right now, hey Nancy, this is Dr. Jason Piken, and welcome to the Healthy Gut Better Life workshop. Now you can tell it's live because we're giving up mistakes and bloopers right away. But I do want to start this right on time. Our first workshop was last night at 7. This is going to be our second workshop. And it's going to be the same information if you already saw it, but maybe you'll hear something you didn't hear last time. And so as we're getting ready here, if anybody has any questions during this, I have everybody muted during this workshop. But if you have any questions, if you can look around the Zoom platform, there's a way to use the chat button. And you can find that and you can ask me questions. I'm going to do my best to answer them. If you don't have any questions, well, then that's okay. I'm going to give you the presentation, and basically what we're going to be talking about is how your gut health really has an impact on your entire life, more than people can imagine. We're specifically going to be focusing on people that have IBS and leaky gut. We'll get into a little bit about what those are, but what we're really going to get into is the background on how gut issues impact your entire life. And since I like to start things as close to on time as possible, and I see a few more people joining in here, I'm going to let the other people that didn't start up right away just jump in and catch up, and maybe they can watch the replay. So how I like to start any talk is really with an I believe statement. And for this talk, it's really that I believe that if you really want to have an impact on every aspect of your health, the first place that you need to begin is the health of your gut. Now, there's more to it than that, but it's one important place to start. And the best way to explain why I believe that is to really teach you my own story. So it all starts in 1971. As you can see from the slides here, I was born in 1971 in Queens to a loving family, two great parents that cared for me the best they could, but by today's standards, and from what I know about health right now, they might not have raised the healthiest child, specifically when it comes to one thing, especially gut health. And again, they did their best, but the first miss that I'll say that was passed on to them, because it was a cultural issue at the time, was I was not breastfed. And what we understand is that breastfeeding is really important. One of the biggest reasons why breastfeeding is important is because it's one of our earliest inoculations of the microbiome. Now, I'm going to use that word, the term microbiome, a lot in this talk, so I figured I'd give it out right at the beginning. The microbiome is a term that explains or stands for all the microorganisms that live in and on our bodies. There are hundreds of trillions of little microorganisms. I shouldn't have to say little microorganisms that live in and on our body. And the vast majority of them reside in our intestinal tract, especially in our large intestine. And they have a huge role in our health. I mean, every single thing that you're exposed to, bacteria-wise, virus-wise, yeast, funguses, they interact with our body. And we'll get into more about the microbiome later, but an important step in formulating a healthy microbiome, one that nourishes you and cares for you, is breast milk. So when you get a lack of breast milk, one of the many things that can happen from that is it'll impact your immune system. 80% of the function of your immune system, 80% is 80% of your immune system, sorry that I didn't rehearse that enough, is determined by the health of your gut. And the health of your gut is vastly determined by the health of your microbiome. So with a lack of breast milk, you wind up with immune system issues. How that impacted me? Ear infections. And then we'll get to that constipation, because that I think came after. And I don't remember either of these in detail because it was all before I was 5 years old. I had multiple ear infections. And I do wish my parents knew about chiropractic care, because to be honest with you, chiropractic care is probably the single best cure for a child's ear infection, especially if they're having multiple ear infections, besides assessing gut health or addressing gut health. So one of the reasons why children's ear infections recur is because when we're young, the tubes that are in our ears are pointed upwards rather than downwards. As the skull expands and we grow, the tubes in our ears actually start to point downward, and it's easier to drain. But if you have a young child with not fully developed head, and that the canals are angled down, and they're also tense and tight from, listen, babies can have stress too. Think of all the crying they do. And if you can get a chiropractor to release the tension from the neck and the skull, it could be done extremely gently. You can release that tension from ear infections. And so, little hint that has, I'm not going to say nothing to do with the gut, but it's an aside. So let's go back into my particular ear infections. I didn't get the breastfeeding, and that's probably one of the reasons why my immune system was affected. One of the ways is ear infections. What's the cure for ear infections? Antibiotics. So I was on plenty of antibiotics. I was told this happened multiple times. I can remember taking antibiotics over and over again when I was like in that probably toddler phase where I can have a little bits of memories. And the antibiotics can be life-saving. They can be needed in life or death situations, and I'm glad they were invented. But what we know of antibiotics now is not only do they kill the bad bacteria that is causing the infection, but they also kill friendly bacteria. They reduce the microbiome, which is needed for so many aspects of our life, especially our immune system. So you're taking something to feel better, but it's actually making you worse. And if you're stuck in that cycle of antibiotics for ear infections, what can that cause? Constipation. That's the other word that's there. And overall, this was finished off, this cycle of constipation and antibiotics and ear infections, by a surgery. More of a fix in modern medicine is when the drugs aren't working, well, have a surgery. So I had my adenoids removed. There are glands in your throat that has to do with your immune system, reducing the function of my immune system. But the ear infection stopped. I also had tubes put in my ears for a summer to help with constant drainage. And yes, you could say that maybe I was done and because I had no more ear infections, but that doesn't mean my original problem was ever addressed, which could be an imbalance in immune function. So how does that manifest next in my life and how I see it in other patients' lives? Allergies. So I was a kid that had pretty severe seasonal allergies. I remember going to camp and I get that little pack of Kleenex packed for me, and that would last me like the bus ride to camp. That's all it was. I was miserable with dripping nose and watery eyes all day long. And what we can understand now from science and research is that allergies are very often a problem with an overreactive immune system. So it's not a balanced immune system, it was overreactive. Could that have been caused by that lack of breastfeeding? Maybe that, and or the use of antibiotics for a few years of my life, many rounds. How it manifested next is I was still dealing with allergies, but hopefully everybody knows this clip from the Breakfast Club. I got psoriasis. One of the first places psoriasis, which is an autoimmune dry skin disorder, showed up for me was in my scalp. And I remember, just like Allie in the movie, scratching my head and all of a sudden seeing flakes. And I thought it was funny, except I was on a school bus, well, a camp bus. And for some reason, these memories keep coming to me of camp. And I was scratching my head and saw these flakes coming down. It seemed interesting to me because I was 12 years old. And it was interesting that something was falling out of my head. And I kept scratching. And what I realized was the flakes kept coming. And then I realized, uh-oh, it's pretty silent around me. I better look around. And as I did, I noticed people were watching me, scratching my head, and they were seriously just grossed out by my dandruff, psoriasis, which showed up in other places throughout my life. These two instances, this sniffling, sneezing, allergy, runny nose person and scratchy eyes kid, a 12-year-old that develops skin conditions that seem gross, form and shape how you feel about yourself compared to other people. And this is how our immune system and our gut can actually shape your personality and shape how you're going to present yourself to the world later on in life, and why I want everybody to pay attention to the immune system and the health of your gut. Now, the immune system imbalances didn't end then, because I then developed acne, the big one. Right at 13, 14 years old, when you're really caring about how you look, I get hit. And it wasn't just the occasional pimple here and there. Teenagers are supposed to get some pimples, some zits. It's okay, it's normal. But when you have a beard and mustache full of cystic acne, so bad that your mom tells you it's okay to stay home from school because of how bad you look, that is too far. And again, your skin is very often, most often I'm going to say, a reflection of the health of your gut. Now, all this time, throughout all these symptoms, I didn't have any known gut issues. I mean, the constipation was, before I was really cognizant of being a human being, before I was 5. But no gut issues, but plenty of immune system imbalances. And this is what people have to understand. Even if you don't feel a gut issue, it can be manifesting in lots of other ways. The most common thing I see in my practice is chronic pain. I didn't mention this here because in childhood I didn't have it, but the highest correlation between a symptom that's not gut related that I see in practice all the time, and when we help and fix your gut, like I've done with thousands of patients throughout the years, chronic pain gets better. And that's just a fact. So I believe all these childhood instances, these, I'm not going to call them diseases, these inconveniences, is probably what led me to chiropractic college. I wanted to be a doctor my whole entire life, but to be honest with you, I was frustrated with what I started to learn about medicine. It wasn't for me, and I was lost for a couple of years until I pretty much stumbled upon chiropractic college. I realized that there was I didn't realize until I got there that there was this non-drug based approach to healthcare. And it was a lot more than cracking backs to make people's neck pain go away. It was a system of healthcare, I learned, that says if you reduce the physical stresses on the body, especially from something called a subluxation, a misalignment in the spine that irritates the nervous system, but if you reduce the physical stresses on the body functions better. And that was for me. So I graduated chiropractic college, started helping people, but I started noticing two things. One, that people got better all the time, but not everybody. And two, people got better, but then kept needing to come back for more care. Now, there's lots of different reasons for this, but I actually had a chronic pain myself. 8 months before I graduated chiropractic college, I was in a really bad car accident and broke my spine in a couple places, did some other damage too, but 2.5 years into practice and I was still in pain. At the beginning of practice, I kind of almost felt like a fraud because I was treating people for pain, but yet I had it myself. Plus, I started to develop acid reflux. It was the first digestive symptom that I'd had in years since the constipation that I barely even knew about when I was 5. And then I met this girl, Stacy, the woman that was to become my wife and still is my wife, luckily. Stacy was this smart, sexy, funny, thin, everything I was looking for in a woman person I started dating, and we were having lots of fun, doing whatever two people in their late 20s do, going out and drinking with our friends and going out to restaurants and just enjoying life. And then 3 months into our relationship, the going out stopped. It took a really fast turn. And I was really curious as to why we were canceling plans with our friends all the time, and why she just wanted to stay home and snuggle and not go out. And after a lot of questioning, she finally opened up to me that she had been dealing with horrible, irritable bowel syndrome for over 10 years. This poor girl was only going to the bathroom to make a poop every 7 to sometimes 10 days. She was uncomfortable almost all the time, but at the beginning of a relationship, you want to just live life. You just push through it and have your fun. But as we started to get comfortable with each other, she just really wanted to stay home and be comfortable. Between my acid reflux, my chronic pain, this girl's IBS that I really cared for, I knew it was really important to start learning how to take care of ourselves better. And the chiropractic alone was helping, but not doing it. And this journey that I took, figuring out how to fix me, how to fix Stacy, is all chronicled on my YouTube channel called the Digestion Diaries. And I suggest you go out there and look for it and watch it. There's tons of information. It's not just our stories. I have some patient stories in there. I have a lot of information on SIBO and IBS and leaky gut and everything you want to know about digestion that I've thought of so far, and I'm going to keep adding more. But ultimately, all the years of knowledge basically brought me to one conclusion, that I needed to come up with a comprehensive approach to healthcare that was not available out there up until that time for me. I had to almost formulate it myself. Now, I didn't come up with this on my own. I took what I learned from applied kinesiology. Talk about that later. I became a nutritionist. I started going to every seminar I could, reading every journal article I could, and experimenting on myself, on Stacy, and yes, willing patients. And over the past couple decades of practice, helping thousands of patients to get better, what I've come to understand is if you combine the alleviation of the 3 main stresses that are causing all your problems, you're going to get better. The 3 stresses comprise what I have created is the Healthy Gut Better Life program. It's a program that addresses the physical stresses in your body that are keeping you from physically being free and healing. And when it comes to gut, that usually pertains to stress around the diaphragm, the muscle over here, and your spinal bones, and trigger points actually in your abdominal muscles. And actually you can use something called visceral manipulation, which is basically, if I put it simply, massaging the organs, putting movement back where there wasn't movement before. And then there's chemical stresses, learning what foods you should and shouldn't be eating, and what supplements you need to take to get better, and then not forgetting about the emotional stresses. And what I really want to teach you today in the next 20 minutes, what I'm going to summarize is the 2 most important respects of this plan as it pertains to IBS and leaky gut. And that is the chemical and the emotional parts. So what IBS is in basics, and if you're watching this video, you probably already know about it because maybe you haven't. If I want to briefly say what it is your bowel has been irritated, and it's a syndrome. It's not necessarily a disease because it's different for different people. But it tends to be people that feel bloated and full. They're not sure what foods bother them, but they know foods bother them. And they usually have bowel movement disturbances, sometimes constipation, sometimes loose stool, and very often they're mixed and they go back and forth. And these people are at wit's end because they don't know exactly how to fix themselves. And I'm going to give you some hints right here on how to take some actions to fixing yourself today. So we're going to be going to that, and let's start off with talking about the 3 major players that you have to understand when it comes to understanding leaky gut and IBS. By the way, I didn't mention what exactly leaky gut is. Well, to put it simply, when you put food in your mouth and you're chewing it and then swallowing it, it's not actually in your body just as of yet. It's just passing through, and it's up to your body to detect if that substance is the right thing for you, as if it's healthy for you. And then it's supposed to like almost open these gates, and it senses it with these little villi, these little projections, and it senses, hey, this is a piece of broccoli, it's healthy for us, it has lots of vitamins, let's let it in. And it opens the gates and lets it into your body. Well, to put it very simply, leaky gut is basically when those gates stay open for too long, and they start letting things into your body, into your bloodstream that aren't supposed to be there. Because to be honest with you, I know I don't do it perfectly, and you don't do it perfectly. We're not all eating absolutely perfectly. meaning purely organic, natural, perfect foods with no dyes and artificial colors and flavors. And even if you are, who knows who touched your food before you ate it and what kind of chemicals they had on their hands or in the plant. So there are chemicals that should be avoided by our body. And if you don't have a leaky gut, if you have tight junctions, so you put that food in and your body only lets in exactly what's needed, then you don't have any worries. But let's get into the players of how leaky gut and IBS are caused. We have to understand three players: the brain, the gut itself, which consists of the stomach and the small intestine, the large intestine, and the microbiota there. That is the microbiome, the bugs, the little microbes that live in and on your body. And for anybody that missed the beginning, I'm going to talk more about that after. So I like to explain things using analogies. And the analogy I came up with between the brain and the gut and the microbiota are two parents and a little baby. Mainly because it's easy to understand and most people don't really know what these squiggly things really consist of. So let's just talk about two parents that are great parents, but they live in this 286 square foot apartment in New York City. And they both work from home. They're around each other all the time, and they just had a baby, 3-month-old, and they want to spend as much time with this baby as possible. So picture 3 individuals, small space. What happens is, most of the time, because they're a young couple and they have this very happy baby, everything is great. They play with the baby. When the baby sleeps, they hang out and drink some wine and watch Netflix, and they're having a grand old life. But let's say any one of these players gets disturbed. Let's say one spouse gets a bad email and it bothers them emotionally. Well, that's going to affect the whole dynamic of this group. Let's say the other player doesn't like to eat well and they feel physically uncomfortable in their gut all the time. Well, we're going to be talking about how that affects your mood. And let's say both parents are fantastic parents and they take care of themselves the best way possible. They take care of their baby the best way possible. They breastfeed them. Everything's organic that they put into their bodies. But babies are babies. And what if that baby is screaming and crying? And you're in a 286 square foot New York City apartment. Can you see how these 3 individuals can start getting on each other's nerves? And this is what happens with our health when it comes to the brain, the gut, and the microbiome. Let's talk a little bit more about the brain. How does the brain directly affect the gut? Through something called the vagus nerve. Now, the gut affects the brain through the vagus nerve too, but let's just stick with the brain for now. The biggest problem I see with patients, and the one thing I need you to pay attention to in order to get better, is the fact that there's 2 halves of our nervous system. One speeds you up and gets your stuff done throughout the day. You wake up in the morning and your brain is busy. Well, that's your sympathetic nervous system. It's the nervous system that calls you to action. And in modern life these days, and I don't care if you're living in New York City or in Iowa or Alaska, the vast majority of our lives nowadays are filled with a lot of stimulation. It's not just the fact that we have these powerful supercomputers in our hand, and I don't have one right now because I haven't locked away in a drawer so I don't touch it. It's the fact that the pressures of life are higher. Our kids have more expectations of them, whether it's even from sports and how they're trained or what's expected of them in school, the pressures to buy more things and to get better off in life. These pressures are more now than they ever have been, and that causes our brain to be more highly active than it ever has been. Now, if your brain is active and you're in a sympathetic dominant state, that's what it's called, well, then you can't have your other half of your nervous system working well, which is your rest, digest, and heal, your parasympathetic, resting, digesting, and healing. And when you're in that mode, the brain stimulates the vagus nerve to fire more. And the vagus nerve, basically, you can picture it as being the relaxing nerve. It influences the entire body when the vagus nerve is stimulated properly. Then you get into relaxed mode. And you can see how I'm talking right now. I'm just leaning back because that's what I feel like we all need, more vagus nerve stimulation. So physically, tension in the neck can cause problems with the vagus nerve. And emotionally, just being awake and alert and doing too much can offset the vagus nerve and understimulate it. And if we don't have that vagus nerve stimulation, our gut can't be healthy. So if you have bloating and burping and belching, IBS, all the symptoms I mentioned before about it, and you're eating all the right things, you're taking medications, you're taking supplements, you go to the acupuncturist, the herbalist, and you're not getting better, well, if you didn't address the stress that you're under, that could be the biggest point that you're missing. And this is what I just teach people, that you have to take care of your ability to handle stress better. And so what do you want to do about that? Is you want to set the tone for the day. This is something I teach often. You want to set aside time every single day for that rest and digest. The number one thing that you need time for is sleep. 7.5 hours is like a magic number that works well for a lot of people as a baseline. That should be your goal. And then you should have a morning that encourages you to put your head on straight. Whether you're listening to something positive or reading something positive or praying or writing down what you're grateful for, you need to set the tone for your day to be less stressed, not just simply watching the news. And at the end of the day, you do need time to wind down. You just have to put limits on your clock. You can be really, really productive within those limits, but you don't want to stray outside those too often, or else if you're trying to heal from literally anything, especially a gut problem, you're going to have a lot harder time doing it. So let's go into the gut as the second player. This is the other parent. And the gut, how it influences the brain is the gut can actually function on its own because you can consider the nerves that feed the gut your second brain. The nerves there are so numerous, they have a name for it. It's called the enteric nervous system. Those are the nerves that feed the gut function, your small intestine, large intestine, and stomach. And these nerves are so numerous that our body actually finds it so important for our gut to be functioning independently of the brain that you can actually make gut decisions. Where did the expression come from? Science has proven that the brain controls everything. It controls the gut, but the gut can actually sometimes work independently and make split-second decisions on its own based upon what the needs are from the food traveling through your system right then, or how it has to deal with infections. So the gut uses that vagus nerve as communication back up to the brain, and it has to let it know what's going on. So let's say again, that situation is happening where you are not stressed out at all. You're living a wonderful life. You meditate, you love your job, you love all the people around you, you have friends, and life is hunky-dory. I don't know where I got that expression from, but life is good. But you just love sweets. You love to drink beer. You love really spicy foods, even though it bothers you. You keep putting in things in your body that don't make you feel really good. Well, that is going to send messages up to your brain saying, hey, brain, change something here. Now, the gut doesn't necessarily give you pain signals. What it can do is it can give you pain and discomfort from gas and bloating, but what it can also do is it can impact your mood. Your gut can put you in a bad mood. And for some people, that bad mood will be anxiety and anxious feelings. And for some people, that will be mood disorders which are lower, like depressive feelings. But there is a gigantic correlation with every aspect of your mood and all the different extremes from severe depression to severe anxiety and panic disorders and the health of your gut. So this is how the gut impacts your life, because it's now going back and forth, especially if you have both problems. You have high stress and you're putting the wrong things in your body. You're just basically a mess. But the good news is you can fix these things. How you work on fixing your gut is simple. What you got to pay attention to is the foods that you put in your body. What we need to do is we need to learn how to nourish our bodies. If you could figure out how to only nourish your body and not irritate it with bad things, you're going to allow the gut to heal. And for people that can't be perfect in their diet, This is where I recommend supplements. RepairVite is just one of those. I put it as an example because it's like a multivitamin for soothing and healing your gut. It has ingredients in it called L-glutamine. It has digestive enzymes. It has marshmallow and licorice and aloe. And all these things really soothe and heal and repair a leaky gut, which comes from all the things that I just mentioned, the stress and the wrong foods and the combinations of both of those. Sometimes medications also can irritate and affect the gut. Even actually one of the most common, PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, acid reducing medications are horrendous long-term for the health of your gut. They may be needed for a few weeks at a time temporarily when you're having a bad problem. Talk to your doctor about that. But long-term, they cause so much damage. So what is my suggestion for you? Find a diet that nourishes you. I don't care whether it's vegan or paleo or ketogenic or the pineapple diet. If you feel good eating a certain way, then stick with that diet long enough for you to heal. And then after you feel like you're doing really well for a number of weeks or a number of months, then start to expand the rules and see if you can add in things that you weren't eating before. This is called an elimination and reintroduction diet. This is really the first process in a 4R program, part of my gut restoration program that I do with people in my office all the time. And to be honest with you, one of the biggest reasons why I'm doing this webinar today is because I wanted the opportunity to share a new program I'm launching. And this is going to be a 7-week gut restoration program. It's a 7-week fast track to healing your leaky gut and dealing with IBS. And it's an online version of what I've been doing with patients and helping lots of people over the years. And what I found is the need to reach more and more people that I couldn't do in a one-on-one setting in my office. It's less expensive than coming to me because we're going to be doing it in a group setting. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about that later. But first, let's get to the rest of the information, things that you can start to think about and how you can change things on your own right now. Okay, I just got a question on the chat. We mentioned what is the leaky gut. I already answered that by mistake. And Ellen is, how do I know if I have a leaky gut? Well, to be honest with you, you can test for it, but what I'm just going to say to anybody that's listening is if you have any type of chronic gut issue, any type of bloating or bowel movement issues, or a lot of burping, if you have mood disorders, whether it's anxiety or depression, I think you can assume in part that it's partly caused by your gut. Because I will tell you the leaky gut tests are not that accurate. They're not that fantastic. You can do them, but they also tend to be more expensive. And to be overly honest with you, as a New York practitioner, the best tests I know of for leaky gut, which is through a company called Cyrax, I can't use in New York. So what I've been doing is what a lot of other practitioners have been doing for many decades when it comes to leaky gut is if somebody has gut issues, we're assuming that leaky gut is a part of it. And we're going to take the steps to heal it. And that works so often that we don't really have to worry about how do we determine if we have a leaky gut or not. Hope that answered the question and didn't over-explain it. Okay, so let's go next into the microbiome, the third player in here. And why I called the microbiome the baby, the infant of the group, is because the brain and the gut have this like direct line of communication, like adults should be communicating with each other. These two adults are communicating through the vagus nerve. But your microbiome are literally trillions, hundreds of trillions of little microorganisms that can't speak directly to you, but they have found a way to communicate. They actually can irritate or make your gut feel good. They actually influence your cravings for foods. And let's go a little bit back into how are these microbes introduced to our body? Well, we're born practically sterile, but even coming through the birth canal, you get exposure to lots of germs. And that's the first inoculation of this microbiome. And then breastfeeding, and then literally every single thing that you put in your mouth as a baby, whether it's a dirty, toy or you're crawling on the floor and you're putting your hands in your mouth. The reason why babies need to put their hands in their mouth so often, and you shouldn't be crazy anal about how dirty or clean they are, is because this is how we form our gut microflora. And There are actually more microbes living in your body than you have cells that make up your body. The actual numbers are close to about 37 trillion cells that make up the human body and over 100 trillion microorganisms. Okay, and what do these microorganisms do when we have beneficial ones? Is they help with the digestion of our food. They produce digestive enzymes for us that help us to break down our food. Do you know that humans cannot break down fiber? It's up to the bugs that live in your gut to break down fiber for you. And this is why fiber is so healthy, is because fiber is a prebiotic. It helps to feed those microbes. So we need lots of fiber. Probiotics, or these friendly bacteria, enhance us by creating vitamins like B vitamins and vitamin K. They make your stool formed well. They make a healthy poop. So if you are struggling with poop, with constipation, or you have loose poop too often, you could blame it on the microbial balance in your body. And let's get into the inflammation. I mentioned previously that irritations in your gut can cause lots of different problems in your body, from your immune system function to chronic pain. How does it impact chronic pain and mood and your immune system? Because if your gut is irritated on a regular basis, it promotes a fire of inflammation everywhere in your body. And any type of chronic problem that you may be dealing with, you might be able to blame on your gut, especially if you're having symptoms there. So let's go to the term dysbiosis. All this means, it's a fancy term that says there's an abnormal balance of these gut microbes. So if we're supposed to be in a 90-10 balance, 90% good, 10% bad, let's say bad microorganisms get in there because you've ate something bad at a restaurant, or a yeast that infected your body. If you have 90% good friendly bacteria, it's going to suppress the bad guys so they don't express themselves. But if you keep traumatizing your body with stress and traumatizing your body with the wrong foods and traumatizing your body with antibiotics, and antibiotics are sometimes in our foods, in dairy products or in the meats we eat, if we keep traumatizing our microbiome and the good guys don't really far outweigh the bad guys, that is called dysbiosis. And eventually it will cause a symptom. And if you're dealing with IBS, this is the main cause. So what do we do about that? We need to feed our body good prebiotics and probiotic foods. We need to fuel the body with fiber. And that fiber is best coming from many different sources. That's what we really want, is many different sources of fiber, because there are 600 to 700 different species of microorganisms. There are only about 26 that are highly researched that we know about that living in our gut, but there are hundreds more that we just don't understand yet. But what we do know is the more types of variety of foods we eat, the better. Now, I did mention before that you should be having a limited diet when we're trying to figure out your gut, but the goal in the long run is to have a very big, wide variety of foods. And then there are probiotics. Sometimes people take them in the form of kombucha, which is pictured here, or kimchi, or sauerkraut, or sour pickles. These are all foods that have been fermented, and they have these good bugs that can help us to get better. So one of the things I teach in the 7-week Healthy Gut program is how to do a elimination reintroduction diet, what prebiotic foods and probiotic supplements are the right ones for you. And ultimately, what I also want to talk about before I get to that next slide is, sorry, I got thrown off there because it was a slide I didn't think was going to be there. Okay, and I'm actually going to pause and switch this, okay, because that was actually the wrong free webinar. So I'm going to make up for that by getting to the right webinar here. And I'm going to just pull that up. Excuse my sloppiness here for a second. And I'm going to go to free 7-week. Okay. All right. And this will just be up in a second. Sorry, everybody. Slideshow from beginning. Let's scroll past all those things that we saw before. If anybody has any questions right now, just go ahead and ask them. And this is the slide that was supposed to show up. Sorry about that. What I want to talk about is how we're going to also teach you things in this 7-week program. Oh, your screen sharing is paused. I'm going to resume screen share. So hold on a minute. I'm going to cancel this out. Screen sharing has paused. Okay, and you got a big picture of me now. I'm going to go back to this, and we're going to share the screen again from here. Sorry about the technical issues right there. So what we're going to be teaching you in this 7-week program is a 4R program. Now we're going to go way past that because, to be honest with you, you can look up a 4R program on the internet and follow it. There's lots of different versions of it. I really like mine because what it does is combine a lot more than I've found on the internet. What the 4R stand for is remove, restore, reinoculate, repair. You can all read. The remove has to do with the foods we talked about, an elimination reintroduction diet. I want to design one right for you, and you got to know the first place to start. For me, it's my leaky gut diet protocol. You can find it on my website. There are links there under the conditions, leaky gut, and go scroll to the bottom of the page and you can find my protocol. But what we're going to be doing is getting into the nitty-gritty and really explaining how this works live in the 7-week program. And not only is remove food, but we recommend certain supplements that kill off bad bugs that may be living in your body. And then we want to restore digestive enzymes. I want to teach you how to find the right digestive enzyme for you because there are literally hundreds of different ones on the market. There are some that I found are more beneficial than others. And then we want to reinoculate your gut with good bacteria. If there is that dysbiosis, that imbalance, we want to teach you what foods exactly are going to nourish you and what probiotics to trial. Because not a probiotic is not a probiotic is not a probiotic. There are different probiotics you should take for different conditions. And if you have soft stool, you should take one type, and if you have hard stool, you should take another type. Now, I don't want to mention that specifically here because the people in the program, I'm going to have them actually feed back to me the specific symptoms they're dealing with, so I can tailor the program because it's going to be a live program. I don't want to have a recording just as of yet until I perfect it. So I'm going to get feedback from everybody that signs up on this initial program, and we're going to be addressing your particular issues. We're going to find out how to reinoculate your particular gut. And the last R stands for repair. Just like Repairvite, the supplement I mentioned a few minutes ago, we want to put in soothing, healing nutrients to your gut. And going through this 4R program is fantastic at restoring microbial balance and a healthy gut with lower inflammation. But we do a lot more in this program because we're going to be going through the physical and the emotional stresses and just a whole lot more. I'll talk about it in a minute. So let's go to the next slide if I can just get my thing going here. What I want to talk about is another patient of mine that just got fantastic results going through this because literally I want to talk to you about Janet because it gives so many people hope. This is why I was blessed that she wanted to do an interview with me on my Digestion Diaries, my YouTube channel. I had an interview with her that lasted 16 minutes, and this is a person that came to me after 30 years of dealing with IBS. 30 years. She never even thought it would get better. She was just hoping for a little something better. But it took some time, I got to tell you, to figure it out because she was resistant to the changes at first. But once Janet jumped all in and said, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do everything you say, and I'm not really going to question it anymore. She spent a few months questioning things before she jumped in, but when she was ready, she healed. And not only was her gut so much better than it ever was, not only can she now eat things that she wasn't able to eat before. Now, she still has somewhat of a limited diet, but she is so much more varied than she was before. But her pain, she had chronic pain. She had been going to chiropractors for years. There was a chiropractor that sent her to my office, and this is a really good chiropractor that knows what he's doing, but she was still in perpetual pain because her inflammation from her gut was still there. Once we addressed stress, emotional, once we addressed stress, the chemistry of her body, and once we kept adjusting her in a slightly different way than she was used to, the problems started to melt away. And are they gone? No. they're just so much better. When I get people that come here that have IBS for 3 or 4 years or 6 years or 7 years, those are like easy compared to a 30-year case. But I just wanted to give you hope that no matter how long you've been dealing and struggling, you can get better. And the same program that I took Janet through is the one that I want to take you through if you want to. So what really is the 7-week Fast Track to Healing Leaky Gut program? And let me take a look at well, this is a question from Michael. Let me see. Can you give me a breakdown of what the 7-week program looks like week to week? I was just getting to that. This is the slide for the 7-week Fast Track program. Sorry, I'm getting tongue twisted there. So what it consists of is, I might change the order based upon the people that sign up and what your particular needs are, but week 1, mindset. Okay, we got to get you in the mindset for change. And we got to get you committed to a program and committed to making changes in your life. Week 2, we're going to go over food, exactly what foods to eat and what foods not to eat. Week 3, we're going to be talking about reintroducing foods. We're going to be talking about when to eat, timing of food. We're going to be getting into intermittent fasting, which is really important. Then we're going to be getting into supplements, and I lost track of the number of weeks here and what supplements are right and wrong for you. Then we're going to be getting into the physical stresses of your body and how you can actually work on yourself using things like a lacrosse ball, like a foam roller. Maybe some of you will need a chiropractor, a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, and I'll tell you how to find the right one and what you can ask them to do for you. We're going to get into the relationship of your diaphragm and how healthy you are. And we're going to teach you techniques that you can work on your own. Even though I can't touch you over the computer, you're going to be able to work on yourself. And then we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty on emotional stress and how to set up your day and life for success. And there's going to be 2 sessions thrown in there that are really just Q&As. We're just going to answer questions and we're going to do this in a group. And not only are we going to do this only during the time of the actual seminar, which is going to be usually on Wednesday nights. What we're going to do is we're also going to open up a Facebook group, a private Facebook group where everybody is going to form a community. And we're going to get together and discuss what happened during those videos. You see, well, hold on a second. There's another one. Am I going to feel better? Stephanie. Yes, I do think you're going to feel better if you follow the steps of the program. And one of the other things that I was going to get to is if you can't make it at the exact time that the program starts, it's 7 p.m. and I'm on the East Coast. So if that's an inconvenient time for you, these are going to be all recorded and you can have what I'm going to call lifetime access to them. You can go back to them and watch these over and over and over again. You're going to get a workbook where you can write down the homework that I'm going to be giving you, because I'm going to give you homework. And typically, not typically, what this program encompasses is what I usually do with patients over 7 weeks, and what I typically really charge thousands of dollars for when I see people one-on-one, between the coaching and the supplements and the adjustments that I give. And I won't be adjusting online, but I'll tell you how to fix yourself. But there's an incredible amount of information that I know you are going to get better. And what we're offering this program for is just $297. That's it. $297 gets you access to all 7 weeks, the workbook itself, access to be live, not a recording at first, but live during these 7 sessions, the Facebook group where I will be chiming in and answering as many questions as I can, and where you're going to be interacting and helping each other, because teamwork gets everybody better. The patients that I have that have gotten the best results have done it with a partner, and this is a way I've come up with that you can partner with somebody in a group setting. And you can chat and help each other out. And you're going to be getting the exact diet, the videos that you need to get better. I'm probably babbling here because I'm bad at reading while I'm talking. And plus, if you need supplements, you can get them anywhere. but I'm going to offer you a 10% discount on all the supplements that are available in my FullScript site. FullScript is a website that I use, a company that I use to dispense supplements that are really high quality supplements that are pharmaceutical grade and doctor approved supplements, and they're all at a 10% discount. So this is all for $297. That's a few dollars more than I charge for my initial visit with somebody. That's one visit and an explanation of what we should do. Now, it is going to be a little different. One-on-one is tremendous, and if anybody out there really feels like the group format is not right for them, call my office, contact me, and we'll talk one-on-one and we'll find out a plan for you. But if $297 sounds like a small investment for you to be able to get healthy, then I urge you to copy down the link below. There's going to be links in the emails we send you about this program, and just join in. We're going to be starting this in just a couple weeks. Depending on when you watch this, it may just be a few more hours, but there's time to sign up, so just do it now. I want to see if there's any more questions out here from anybody. What if I can't listen in on Wednesday at 7 p.m.? I think I addressed that also myself. If you can't be live, which is going to be best, I would urge you to be live because then we can interact with each other. But if you can't be, there are recordings, there's a workbook. You can go back to it. There's the Facebook group. Everything you need is in this program, and I know you're going to get better. I have to wrap up because I wanted to keep this webinar as short and sweet as I can, even though I know it's long for some people, but I really hope you enjoy your day. I really hope you'll take some action, at least start following some of the suggestions I made in this video to change your life. And if you really want help, just click the link below in the email that you get. And I look forward to seeing you online. Have a great day.